Welcome to our walking tour of Natchez, Mississippi. Established by French colonists in 1716, Natchez is one of the oldest and most important European settlements in the lower Mississippi River Valley. After the French lost the French and Indian War, then ceded Natchez and near territory to Great Britain in the Treaty of Paris of 1763, it later traded other territory east of the Mississippi with Great Britain, which expanded what is called West Florida. So we take this walking tour today along one of the oldest cities in this part of Mississippi. Actually, one of the oldest in the United States. We'll start here with the Temple B'nai Israel. It was built in 1904, which replaced an 1870s temple that burned. Both temples reflect the success of Jewish merchants after the Civil War. Jews lived in Natchez as early as the late 1700s, but their numbers grew in the 1840s from large waves of immigrants from France and Germany. The Jewish population was fully involved in the economic, social, and civic life of Natchez. Over here across the street, the building with the columns on it, this building was built in 1822, and it's Trinity Episcopal Church. It's the oldest church building in Natchez. Before the Civil War, the family of many of the richest cotton planters filled the pews. Later additions to the building include stained glass windows by Louis Comfort Tiffany and John Lafarge. Next to the church, the building with the steeple here at the top, kind of a three-story building, is Colonial Hall, constructed in 1886 and named for the Reverend Joseph Colonial, rector from 1914 to 1946. Then over here, we find Glen Auburn. This is one of just many of the mansions that we're going to see along our tour today. Glen Auburn is a great example of the French Second Empire style. The 1870s home of Christian Schwartz is symbolic of the rise of the merchant class in Natchez, which replaced the slave-owning planter class and influence and wealth in Natchez after the Civil War. As we go along the tour today, I'll try to point out some of the buildings, maybe some of the ages of the buildings if we can see them. Many of these are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. For example, this is known as the Thomas Seton House, and it was built in 1840. Over here is the Peter Eisler House, constructed in 1817. The Van Court Townhouse. Take a look at these houses here on the corner of Washington and South Union Street. All four of these houses at this intersection was built before the Civil War, and three are associated with the family of Joseph Quiggles, a Spaniard who settled in Natchez during the Spanish period, roughly between 1779 and 1798. This home right here, the LaCroix Townhouse, was built in 1843. The house is one of several on the block that feature common walls to create a row of houses without side yards. Row houses were often built in neighborhoods closest to town businesses where many people worked. This home over here, the one on the corner, is James and Josephine Quiggle Ferguson built the Van Court townhouse roughly about 1835. During the next 2 years, Ferguson lost his wife and 3 infant sons of childbirth and illness. Such deaths were common until the 1900s brought better medical care. And again, this home over here is the Peter Eisler home. This is the Edward House, built in about 1830. Over here is the Carpenter Memorial School number 2. Now looks like it's a multi-purpose center. This home through here, kind of hard to see. So we can get a little bit closer look here. Oh yeah. Is called the Elms. T.K. Wharton, an English architect, drew this pencil sketch. Get a bigger picture here. Of the Elms in 1859. Merchant John Henderson built the earliest sections of the Elms in 1804. In the 1850s, David Stanton enlarged and remodeled the house to create a unique rambling appearance. Take a look once again over here at the Carpenter School. It was built by the Carpenter family, 1913. The Carpenter School number 2 had an indoor swimming pool and a combination gymnasium and auditorium surrounded by a raised running track. It won an award from the American School Board as a model public school and now serves, as I mentioned, as a senior citizens multipurpose center. Kathmandu, built in 1905. You'll probably notice a lot of green, gold, and purple decorations. I'm doing this walk during Mardi Gras time. Mardi Gras 2022. This home was built roughly around 1800. The Peter Christ House. Now reached Main Street. In the south, you'll see many monuments, including this one, that were created in memory of the Confederate dead. This monument is in memory of the Confederate dead from Natchez and Adams County, Mississippi. Wow. In 1842, construction began on St. Mary Minor Basilica, the first cathedral for the Roman Catholic Diocese of Mississippi. The church mainly served the area's Irish and Italian immigrant population. Debt and lawsuits from contractors slowed work on the church building, while parishioners kept the windows of the sanctuary boarded up and held services in the basement. The parish completed the cathedral in 1859. And just to the right over here next to St. Mary's Cathedral is the rectory, which dates to about 1846. We're beginning to head into the historic downtown area of Natchez right now. Over here, this building with the columns on it is the Agricultural Bank. It was built in 1833 and designed in the Greek Revival style. In the 1860s, it contained a restaurant and saloon known as, well, the Bank. The local newspapers noted that an elegantly fitted up saloon is opened in the old director's room and billiards are free. For many years, beginning in 1916, it was home to the Britton and Kuntz Bank. This building over here, this brick building, a large 3-story building, was built in 1901 as the Natchez Institute. The Natchez Institute was the first public school in Mississippi to offer a full course of free education for white children. The first public school for African American children, the Union School, was built in 1871. Today, the Natchez Institute building is home to the historic Natchez Foundation, a nonprofit organization that works to preserve, restore, and promote the historic resources of Natchez. This beautiful building with the stained glass is the First Presbyterian Church, built in 1900. The congregation of First Presbyterian Church was organized in 1817. The sanctuary was built in 1828 and enlarged in 1851. This is Natchez City Hall right here. And across from City Hall, this building used to be the Adams County Jail, built in 1891. Looks like this much newer brick block building is possibly the current jail. This building here is the Adams County Courthouse. The Adams County Courthouse that we saw back over here was built in 1817. This courthouse, it's the oldest courthouse in Mississippi. Cool. It's remodeled in 1925. Many of the wealthiest Natchez planters and slave owners also were attorneys with offices near the courthouse. Several of them maintain offices in a line of buildings across from the courthouse known as Lawyers Row. While it's closed right now for renovations, this is the William Johnson House. It's a division of the National Park Service, and it honors William Johnson, who lived here. William Johnson was a freed African-American businessman and diarist. His diary, covering the period from 1835 to 1851, and was eventually published in 1951. It contained a great description of what life was like for freed African Americans prior to the Civil War. building here is the Mississippi Central Railroad Depot. In the 1900s, the railroad played an important role in the great northern migration of African Americans from the South. This exodus resulted from a combination of available factory jobs in the North, most of those in Chicago, racial segregation in the South, a boll weevil infestation, and farm machines that replaced many of what were the former slaves' jobs. At the depot. By the beads, everybody's gearing up for Mardi Gras. Park sits right on the bluffs overlooking what we're going to see here, the Mississippi River. Wow. The mighty Mississippi. There's some barges going on today. Large bridge. As you can see, we sit pretty high up off the Mississippi. Doubt if there's been a lot of flooding in Natchez, probably not. Actually, below there's an area called Natchez below the hill, kind of a little community. There's bars. Hotels, restaurants. This is the Grand Hotel. Rock here marks a memorial to the Natchez Trace. The Natchez Trace was a historic thoroughfare from Natchez, right here in Natchez, all the way up to Nashville. Often used as a mail route or just a traveling route. Right now, most of it is paved, or almost all of it is paved. It's a national park road. It can only go about 50 miles an hour, but it's a great road to travel. No billboards, no trucks, 50 miles an hour, lots of beautiful scenery. Yeah, the Grand Hotel is really grand. It's a beautiful hotel. Looks like it's under renovation, but this is the Yazoo and Mississippi Valley Railroad Depot. It was built in 1910. The last railroad to own it was the Illinois Central Railroad. Interesting. The Grand Hotel that we saw here, this huge building, was once the Natchez Cotton Mill, built in 1872. In 2007, it was remodeled to become the Grand Hotel. On this hill and in this home, Andrew Ellicott raised the American flag in 1797. This act claimed the Natchez territory for the United States and helped hasten the departure of the Spanish. A few years later, James Moore built a home on the site known today as the House on Ellicott Hill. The Natchez Garden Club restored the house in 1935. It was the very first building in Mississippi restored by the organization. Across the street over here, and it looks like we're going to be walking by it a little bit more, is the City Auditorium. It was built in 1939 as part of the Franklin Roosevelt's Works Progress Administration, WPA. It was a combined public auditorium and gym. Many of the events held in here include circuses, sporting events, concerts, the historic Natchez beauty pageant. And in 1965, it also served as a temporary jail for arrested civil rights activists. This old building is known as Choctaw Hall. It was built in 1836. Joseph Niebert built Choctaw in 1836 as his mansion townhouse. Niebert was also a cotton planter. In the 1830s, he and his partner, Pete Gimmel, operated the city's most successful building firm, which employed both white and enslaved craftsmen. In 1844, the house was sold to Alvarez Fisk, a supporter of education and member of the Mississippi Colonization Society. In 1855, Choctaw became home to George Mahlon, a wealthy planter and lawyer. His outspoken support of Mississippi's secession from the Union led to Choctaw's occupation by U.S. forces during the Civil War. Across the street over here is another house with an Indian name. It's called Cherokee. It is a grand house that was the town home of a cotton planter. Natchez planter and cotton broker Frederick Stanton owned Cherokee from 1846 until he moved into a newly completed Stanton Hall in 1858. In case you haven't noticed, many of these homes, especially the larger ones, they're open for tourists throughout the year. And at Christmas time, they're just decorated beautiful from what I understand. This humongous home over here, we'll get a closer view here in just a minute, was built by Irish immigrant Frederick Stanton. He was a wealthy slaveholding planter and cotton merchant. He built the house in 1857 and named it Belfast. In the 1890s, the house became home to Stanton College for young ladies. In the early 1900s, it again became a private home and was renamed Stanton Hall. In 1938, the Pilgrimage Garden Club bought the house, and it has served for years as the hub of social activity for garden club members. Across the way over here is the Dr. Dubs townhouse. It was built in 1852 for city alderman and dentist Dr. Charles H. Dubs. Interesting. Dr. Dubs patented a compound union screw forceps for extraction of tooth roots without injury to the jaw. So we can thank Dr. Dubs for relatively, I guess you would call it, painless root canals. It's a better view of Stanton Hall. Let's go across the street here. those trees there. Ruth Shucks Townhouse, 1855. Christopher Kyle, a white Natchez merchant, probably built the Kyle House about 1820 for Nancy Kyle, a free woman of color. He was the father of her daughter Caroline. This is one of the few remaining examples of the small pre-Civil War houses that were home to working class white people and free people of color. This is a good example of a house down the south called a shotgun house. Basically, it has the doors in the front and the back, and they call it a shotgun house because you can shoot a shotgun from the front to the back side. The J.L.C. Davis House, also known as the Orchid, was built in 1850. Beautiful brick style home. I don't know much about this, but that's an old standard service center. Probably back in the 1930s, where you got gas, and there's the bay where they used to fix your cars. Here's the King's Tavern. It's the oldest building in Natchez. Standing before 1789. Operated as a tavern, a stage stop, a mail station at this end of the Natchez Trace. Read online too that this is one of the most haunted homes or buildings in Natchez. Looks like it used to be another service station, another gas station. The Jefferson Street Methodist Church. The members of Jefferson Street Methodist Church completed their new building church in 1872 and finished the sanctuary in 1877. Methodist ministers first came to Natchez as circuit riders in the southwest frontier during the territorial period between 1798 and 1817. Yeah, the building we saw over here, we just walked past, was a Texaco gas station in 1935. We're on Franklin Street, and another commercial street in Natchez. Many of these buildings were originally owned by cotton plantation owners, but after the Civil War, many African Americans owned businesses along this street. Also on this street, back in 1965, the riots occurred. Riots, sit-ins, walk-ins, all for the civil rights movement. We're here. This building is the old Cress department store. Cress was a forerunner for what now has probably become Walmart. You can see in the commercial street many businesses, bank buildings. Well, it looks like it needs a lot of work. This is the Ritz Theater. Judging by the style, probably a 1930s building, Art Deco-ish type style. Hopefully they're spending the time and money to remodel it. How you doing?
Filming?
Yeah, as I walk along. And I believe that wraps up our tour of Natchez, Mississippi. Hope you've enjoyed the tour. Learned a little bit, saw some pretty cool sights. Remember, come back for the next video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.